One's ready. One's ready. Go!
Hey everybody, welcome back to the One's Ready podcast. This is your daily drop for the 28th of March, brought to you by barbellapparel.com. Go over there, check out any of their Havoc polos, their shorts, their jeans, chinos. It's all like multi-way stretch. They're fantastic. I actually go hiking in the chinos, believe it or not, just because of how well they stretch. They are in their 11th anniversary now of existing, from when they started a Kickstarter back in 2014. And listen, I wear all their stuff. I really do. Like, it's crazy. All the collared shirts and everything that you see me wearing on there on video occasionally is all their stuff. If you see me out and about, I'm wearing their jeans, their shorts, their chinos. They're the only workout shorts I have. They're great stuff, great company out of Las Vegas. So check them out. All right, over to the joint news. And if you're new here, this is the news that is sent out to every Air Force commander-in-chief in the Air Force. And it's just curated by public affairs. However, instead of this being this long drawn out stuff, I have kind of dumbed it down. But this is every single bit of the information that they send out. I don't cut any of it out or anything like that. So, joint news. The Pentagon identified First Lieutenant William Hott as the 100th service member from North Korea returned remains. He was killed in the Korean War. The milestone reflects ongoing efforts to account for fallen warriors. If you guys weren't tracking, there are still agencies and organizations out there that they still try and identify remains from a lot of those mass graves and everything like that, using DNA sampling and dental work and that kind of stuff to try and identify the remains and then repatriate those remains to get them buried back stateside and, back with their family. So that's pretty awesome that this is happening. It's wild to think that there are still those kind of things out there. Or not those kind of things, but that there are people that served, that were killed, that still, weren't identified, are still over there, but are being brought back home. Like, it's pretty cool that people are still doing that and working so hard to make that happen. Number two, the SignalGate scandal dominated a Senate hearing with nominees like Air Force Secretary pick Troy Mink. I'm probably saying that wrong. Denying misuse of unclassified channels. Questions arose over the potential SpaceX favoritism in Space Force contracts. So, I don't know. I don't know much about Mr. Troy Mink, who is being nominated for the Secretary of Air Force. I do know that he's got a background in KC-135s, and I think he was a navigator on the tanker. So he does have aviation experience. He does have kind of that logistic support and global reach experience. So, as far as that is concerned, I think he may be a good fit, especially since, the next fight is probably going to be heavy in the logistics realm. So, next is U.S. airstrikes in Somalia killed ISIS operatives, with AFRICOM or Africa Command citing their threat to security interests. Defense Secretary noted the strikes reflected empowered field commanders. That means that they lowered the authorities down to the lowest level possible, or at least a lower level than the AFRICOM commander, to conduct these strikes, which is how it should be. We got in a habit during OEF and OIF of pushing the authorities to actually strike and drop stuff way too high instead of empowering our commanders on the ground at a lowest level. So that's a good thing if that did in fact happen. Number 4, or the next one rather, military stores brace for Trump's tariffs, which may raise prices and limit availability at exchanges and commissaries. Officials are working to mitigate impacts on troops and families. So military stores like clothing sales and that kind of stuff. Here's what I don't understand is why like if we're going to use the clothing sales kind of thing, why are there pieces of our United States of America uniform being produced outside of the US? I don't understand that. Okay, if you want to make the argument that it's cheap, that it keeps the cost down, um, okay, but give a better clothing allowance, which military members get, or at least enlisted do. If it's going to be more expensive, then increase their price. That way we can make sure that all that stuff is manufactured in the U.S. and not outsourced to other countries. That's my 2 cents on it. Air Force news. Air Force Secretary nominee Troy Mink pledged to prioritize space innovation and pilot retention during a Senate hearing. He stressed maintaining technical skills to counter China's advances. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it before. You guys are probably tired of hearing it. We've got to prioritize space, as well as other things. Like you can do more than one thing and prioritize more than one thing, especially when you're a service. But pilot retention is definitely a big issue, and we got to get over it. Recruitment doesn't seem to be an issue, especially right now, but retention does. Secretary of the Air Force nominee promised a thorough review of Air Force modernization, emphasizing faster innovation amid nuclear and fighter fleet upgrades. Yeah, you guys probably aren't tracking the nuclear. I don't know what the right term would be for it, but our nuclear program is behind. However, we are modernizing it. Same with the fighters, and tankers, if you want to talk about that. And I know yesterday we talked about C-130s and C-17s. So like we have an aging fleet. We definitely do. Like if you start talking about the KC-135 and the B-52s, like look how old they are and they're still crushing it. So it's not to say that they're not capable still, because they are very, very capable, but you still have to start, planning out and forecasting future requirements, future needs, and future degradation of your force. He also called for Air Force fleet. He also said that the Air Force fleet is probably too small, and he values the F-47 and the B-21 and even older F-15Es for deterrence. He plans to address pilot shortages and quality of life issues. I wonder why he specifically went for the F-15Es instead of others. And like I said, this is curated, so maybe that just happens to be what he mentioned instead of going through every single aircraft like, hey, A-10s, F-15s, F-16s, so maybe that's what it was. But I don't know if maybe he said F-15Es specifically for a certain reason. But yeah, we have pilot shortages, pilot retention problems, and there are quality of life issues. If you paid attention to it at all, some of the bases have got black mold, their housing has been neglected, that kind of stuff. So real problems that need to be addressed for reals. Next, B-2 bombers deployed to Diego Garcia in a rare show of force, tracked across the Pacific this week. We talked about that the other day. No updates on that, really, other than the fact that they highlighted it again here. Staffing shortages at Hill Air Force Base and Peterson Space Force Base forced child care centers to turn away families, worsened by a brief hiring freeze. That means that their government civilians are not being hired right now because of the freeze. And this crisis echoes a broader 12,000 child wait list. So that's kind of deceiving, that wait list. Although it may be growing right now, and it probably always was growing, this has always been a problem. There are families that have to outsource to places on the economy to put their kids in childcare because there's not enough room on the base in the childcare center. So that is a real problem, and it has been a problem for quite some time. So this is not new because hiring freeze. However, the hiring freeze for sure is not helping, because those people in childcare facilities are government civilians. Next, airmen guarding the E-4 Bravo Doomsday plane during the Secretary of Defense's trip to our elite Phoenix Ravens, not his bodyguards. The 55th Security Forces Squadron ensures the aircraft's strategic readiness. How? Okay. Awesome job, Phoenix Ravens. Great job, 55th Security Forces Squadron. Why is this even news that has to be sent out to the commanders and the chiefs? Like, come on. Public affairs, crushing it as always. Next, World War II Airman Corporal Glenn Hodak, killed in 1945 Tokyo prison bombing, was identified from remains analyzed in 2022. His funeral is set for May in Pennsylvania. Nice. Kind of goes back to the North Korean KIA that we talked about, killed in action that we talked about earlier. All right, Space Force news. Troy Mink warned the U.S. risks losing its space edge to China, advocating for rapid capability growth during his hearing. Yep, say it again. Lieutenant General Deptula, I've said it. You guys are sick of hearing it, but I'm going to say it again until you get it through your thick skulls. We are losing the race in space to everybody else. Or maybe not everybody else, but China and Russia. At least definitely China. He also endorsed space control and counterspace weapons as vital to counter threats, aligning with General Chance Saltzman's focus on domain dominance. He sees space as the most stressed warfighting area. Completely agree. 3% of the DoD budget, when you start talking about how expensive it is to send shit to space, not just send things to space, those satellites and those things that we put up in space, I mean, it takes years to build them, and and they're not cheap. You know what I mean? So if we want to maintain our advantage and maintain the edge up there in space, like we gotta take it seriously. Next is General Chance Saltzman is hopeful the Space Force will provide budget cuts buoyed by Trump's Golden Dome plan. He's rated axe programs to preserve key priorities. Yeah, I mean, if you are dealing with a 3% of the DoD budget and you're expected to operate at, and I'm making this up, if you're expected to operate at 10% of the DoD budget, then any kind of extraneous BS programs that you have that you're spending money on, you're going to have to get rid of at some point. You're going to have to cut. So, and that is definitely in line with this administration. That is definitely in line with Doge. So let's do it. All right. Senator Kevin Cramer suggested the Space Force might pivot to SpaceX for satellite capabilities, bypassing PWSA development. I'm not sure what PWSA is. No final decision has been made amid concerns for market fairness. Hey, if SpaceX is the biggest show in town and they're able to do it for the cheapest and get your stuff up there, like, I see nothing wrong with doing it. But we had talked about it yesterday. Competition is a good thing, and SpaceX definitely welcomes competition. So if there's others out there, like, let's get to it. Let's get this space race going. All right, these are of interest. Trump's executive order seeks to ban most federal unions, citing national security, sparking legal pushback from unions. Unions are outdated and should go away, in my opinion. They absolutely had a purpose back in the day, and they did great things. However, now it is just pointless now, and it takes union members' money, and it creates issues. Like, I am not a fan of unions, and I don't see the good in them anymore. Next is Senate Armed Service leaders demanded a Pentagon probe into the Signal chat leak, with Representative Adam Smith calling for Hegseth's resignation. Attorney General Pam Bondi downplayed the breach's severity. I agree with her there. It is not a big deal. However, she is worthless and we should get rid of her. Like, Trump needs to fire her ass. She should have never been in there in the first place. Second, to call for Hegseth's resignation, Hegseth didn't create the group. Somebody else created the group, and they were just talking in it. Now, I always check if I'm added to a group, whether it's on Signal, WhatsApp, a normal text or whatever, I am always checking who the members are. And if I don't know who they are, then I'm either keeping quiet or I'm behaving myself, if you will. So, but how can you call for the Secretary of Defense's resignation when he's not the one that set up the group? He's not the one that established it, anything like that. Like, that's silly. Judge James Bosenberg ordered preservation of signal chat messages from mid-March in a lawsuit over the federal records violations. So back to the signal chat. If you think that this wasn't, I mean, just take a look at it. It has everything, all the ingredients, if you will, to say that this was intentional and a setup. Like, how is Judge James Bosenberg had what? This is the third or fourth thing involving these court cases. Like, come on. You can't tell me that he's not getting fed stuff and that they are not intentionally trying to do this stuff. He did, if I remember right, I think he did the Russiagate stuff. There was a couple more things that he had just in the last 2 weeks. So it seems a bit far-fetched for me. Ukraine's Zelensky accused Russia of breaching a ceasefire and striking a Kherson energy site, urging a U.S. response. France's Macron proposed a European reassurance force for Ukraine. And then, so Keir Starmer, that punk-ass bitch and prime minister in the United Kingdom, is all about Ukraine. He wants to send British troops over to Ukraine. He wants to send British men and women over to die and get a coalition of the willing and all that kind of crap. Yet Zelensky is still calling for a U.S. response because the others aren't good enough. Like, we can't pull out or get cut off Ukraine quick enough. And it's not against the people of Ukraine, right? And it's not to say that, I agree with what's talking about, but, or what's happened over there, because it's bad. But man, this dude is 100% taking advantage of the U.S. All right. Lastly, Germany reaffirmed its F-35 purchases despite European critics urging local investment, strengthening the U.S. ties. Denmark and Portugal showed mixed sentiments on the similar deals. Look, the F-5 were expensive, but it's incredibly capable. And I get that they want to do local investment in Germany and build their own, maybe, but it's not going to be as good. It's just not. It's not going to be as good as the F-35. So that's my opinion, though. And all of these, everything I said, at least opinion-based, is my opinion. And I'm giving it to you here real quick, so it's not like I'm able to go into all the little nuances of it. I know there's probably quite a few people that disagree with me on the last one in terms of Ukraine, but that's where I'm at right now. So, all right, everybody, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and then leave us a comment. We haven't gotten any comments in a long time. Or not comments, I'm sorry, reviews on Apple Podcast. So, or even on the Spotify comments. So yeah, leave us a review if you don't mind. All right, we're out here. Later.